Oh, that's one. So it's really interesting and kind of coincidental that these things are aligning when we're talking about academics and what we're doing from a leadership standpoint to support teaching and learning so we have amazing outcomes for students. So I am a teacher, and so when I'm staring at an audience that's just sitting there quietly, I kind of get nervous because I'm used to a little bit more engagement. I really want this to be a collaborative conversation, and so when I say that, if you have a question, if I say an acronym, or if there's something that doesn't make sense, please stop and ask, because that's how I feel more comfortable in front of people. If it's just me staying like a college professor, that's my world. So interrupt me, let's talk, let's have a conversation, okay? So when Jennifer had this amazing title, I was like, what does she want me to talk about? So when you guys were signing up for Taxpayer Tuesday, what is your expectation for learning today? What are you hoping to get out of this? Yes, sir.
I always am curious about not only how do we serve the high performers, but how do we deal with the kids that are struggling one way or another,
Yeah.
and help them become, better than what they are right now.
That's great. And I do address that in my slides, so perfect. Not everybody is just acclimated to academia, right? People learn different ways. We have that in the slide, so great. This is aligned to what you were wanting to know more about.
Selfishly, I'm from overseas, so just understanding the U.S. system a bit better as my kids are going into it. So
And what age are your children?
I have one that will be in middle school or next year. I have 3 in elementary.
Okay. So you're preparing. Wanting to
Yes.
see. So this was good. Good for you to just get that global understanding of middle school and more of the district. So thank you. Thank you for the brave souls. I appreciate that, taking the risk. Anybody else want to add to what you're hoping to learn?
I guess mine is sort of similar to hers. I have 3 in elementary school, 2 at Cypress, so I'm on, Cypress, but I'm thinking more about as they move up, what it will be like.
What it's going to look like as they move up. And so I'm going to tie back to that in just a little bit about why we're doing what we're doing in our district. But really what we're focused on in Dripping Springs ISD are really 3 things. We are always going to be student focused. You can guarantee that from our superintendent, our board, all the way down to our campus principals and our teachers. We do school with what's best for students. Sometimes that means personalizing education. Sometimes it means being able to support them if they have a different need. And we are okay with that. That is not typical in a lot of districts. A lot of districts will say, here's the standard and we're going for the standard. We've always been about that. I've been here a long time now and I can say that with confidence that that's what we're about. So today, to overview what we're going to learn, some of these things, some of you have already seen, and that's okay. A portrait of a graduate check, you've already seen some of that, but I'm going to talk about why that's a foundational artifact that we build on with everything we do. Why does elevated education matter right now? We're also going to talk about a strategic plan year 2. It's really to get us to 2030, but just because we're done with 1 year doesn't mean the work stops. The work actually continues, and it's starting to compound on each other. So it takes a lot of capacity building. I'm about research. We don't do things just because I think it might be good. We go by what does the research say is good for kids and learning. We're going to look at how we are developing curricular coherence. I'm going to use that a lot and why that's important. Take a look at high quality instruction. What does that actually mean? What does that look like? How do you assess for it? And how do you train teachers to be ready for delivering high quality instruction? And then really important, how learning improves. You're all learners, you all have students, you all have your own children, you have your own learning adventure. Everybody learns differently, right? How do we capture that so that we can make sure all students gain the potential that they're really there for, so that they can live their outcomes? In Dripping Springs, how we are investing in our educators, because that's the root. We're all about people, a supporting system for all learners, to Walter's point, and why this is going to work, why it is learning. So, starting with the portrait of a graduate. If you've seen this before, raise your hand. Yes, this is our foundational document. And it has been around since before me, way before me. And I want to attribute that to our board, long before, had the vision that this is what we want for our graduates, to prepare them for their future. This document is so important to us that when we went to strategic plan, 2 years ago, our board said, this is still foundational and very applicable. And so if you look, lifelong learner, accomplished communicator, skillful problem solver, conscientious citizen, contributing member of society, these things are globally what we're going after as a district, but then when I think about it and I drill it down from a teacher lens, it's what I want in my classroom. Everything I want in my classroom too. So this artifact to me is like the seminal piece that we go after with what we're looking for in our classrooms. And when they do graduate with us, what they're going after for their life and their future. So why does elevating education matter? And I could put a lot of words on here, but I think the pictures count 1,000 words. So every student that walks into our classroom, into our buildings, they have different stories. They have different histories. They have different language needs. They come with different readiness for learning. They come with different backgrounds, and we have to prepare to teach all of them. We're not like private school where you can decide, we don't want this kid, we only want this kid, this type of learner, we only want a certain. We take them all, and that's a beautiful thing. What does it take in our world to be able to interact and meet the needs of all these learners? It takes a very skillful instructor and a very skillful teacher that is not only somebody that we're hiring to fill a position, but a professional that we're training and supporting. Very important. I'm going to check my notes to make sure I don't forget anything. So when you have this level of complexity that walks into your classroom, what you need as an educator is very clear guidelines about your curriculum, what you're teaching, and then how to live that graduate profile the graduate every single day so you can reach all your learners. That's paramount and really, really important. We support our teachers, and you heard Ms. Miller, she's still here. We heard Ms. Miller talk about her leadership meeting today. A lot of what we do is embedded in the school day. There are some days where we stop, kids don't come to school, and we teach teachers. Those days aren't as effective, let me be honest. What really moves the needle for kids is the embedded PLC time, right, Ms. Miller? Do you want to say anything about that? Embedded PLC time and how valuable it is?
To me, that's the most critical thing that we can do as educators. This morning, my meeting at 7:45 was with all of my department leads, and that was our conversation. For 50 minutes this morning, it was how can I be a better leader for my teachers, and what does that PLC or professional learning community look like every week? So how do we pour into each other? What data are we looking at? What's the strategy that you're using in your classroom? Did it work or did it not? Can you show me? So it's really us leaning on each other, because we all have brilliant minds, but we also have complex situations and complex problems that one of these master teachers shared with us. I'm struggling in this one class, this one student, he needs more. What does that look like? And so when you have those people come together and problem solve, we model that. I model that for them, like this morning, and then they go out and do that in their own PLCs and their own departments. So we're continuing to pour into my leaders, which then are pouring into their team, which then are pouring into their students.
So it's a beautiful system, and that's taking place on every one of our campuses, the PLC model. We also have instructional coaches that support PLCs as well. The instructional coaches, we have very few of them, but they're experts at what they do, both in the classroom and for content, and they work closely with principals and brand new teachers, so new to the profession teachers. We'll talk a little bit more about how they support in that way, but when you can use that embedded professional learning, it's very much aligns to what medical doctors do. They're not in isolation, diagnosing and just keeping it to themselves. They're going back to a brain power worth of people to make sure that they're on the right track. Same thing for education. So we talked a little bit about the strategic plan. It's Future Ready 2030. Here are the 4 big goals. The presentation today is really going to focus on the first 3. While we do know communication is important, my 3 for academics really are the first 3. So when we start that, we're going to ensure students possess skills to confidently solve problems, communicate effectively, adapt, lead, and innovate, and be prepared for their future. Wow, that's big, right? So when you're looking at strategies for year 2, what does that look like? So we're going to break that down for you guys. The second one is creating pathways for access for all students, whether and all programs to support their personal well-being and growth. That's really, really, really important. And then strategically hire, recruit, develop, retain quality staff. That basically to me says build capacity all the time in staff, all staff, not just teachers, in leaders, in the paraprofessionals, in our front office staff, constantly and consistently making sure we're pouring into the people that serve our students. So when we get really good at this, education is really easy, right? Because we have hungry teachers that want to learn. We have hungry teachers that want to solve problems that the kids are presenting, possibly a barrier to learning that they want to learn so they can support their student. So I did tell you I'm all about research. So where do you start? With that big lofty goal, where do you start? So you break it down. We had another stakeholder meeting with instructional leaders, campus principals, department leads, and we really broke this down about what does this look like in year 2. We came up with some really good, clear focus areas, but number 1 is we have to rely on the research to guide our path, to make this a reality in every classroom. So in the research, have you all ever heard of Hattie, John Hattie? He is like the guru of educational research. And so basically, he took metadata, thousands and thousands and thousands of student data, and he cured it all together. He's going to say that we do it wrong, but this is the right way. So basically, he says not only what works to help students grow, but how much does it help them grow. So it's 2 things. It tells us the what and the how much. So if you look, this is his hinge point, which is 0.4. This is called an effect size. So the effect of learning and how students grow, because it's not just about meeting an academic goal, it's about growing over time. He said if we can hit 0.4 or higher, that's a year's worth of growth. So we could say, using his effect sizes, and this is just part of the chart. The chart was all the way down too. So like homework is way down here, right? So no real impact. Class sizes, way down there, no real impact. There's some other things that are fascinating that we have to do this. It's probably way down here. These are the top that we're looking at. So what he says is if it's over 4.4, you're going to get more than a year's growth. Look at this one, is the top thing. That's collective teacher efficacy. So in simple terms, what that means is, does my teacher know what to do in the classroom to meet my needs? Does she believe in me? Does she believe in her ability to make my growth? Wow, that's why our focus is all on the people. It's all about the people. We have a lot of different focuses throughout this, but can everybody see that? I know you probably can't see the numbers. I'll go over the numbers when we hit. So this is where we started with, okay, what do our people need based in research? Fascinating, right? This wasn't around when I was in school, a teacher.
Thinking about that first item up there, what is the turnover in teachers in our district and in, say, this school? That would seem to have a big impact on efficacy.
I love the way your brain works. Yes, I'm gonna have to phone a friend to the back row.
Less than 10% district-wide.
Less than 10% district-wide.
And this campus was probably 5%?
Yeah, it was,
Very,
we
very
had
low.
very few resignations this past year, and most of them are relocating.
Out of the state, not just to other districts, but like leaving the state altogether, but less than 10%.
That's a really good question, Walter, because you know that it costs money to train people, and so we like to keep our people and their training for our students. So that's a really insightful question. I appreciate you asking it, and asking right in the moment, so thank you for that. Any other questions about this chart? We're going to go into a little bit of detail about that in just a minute. Okay, the first thing we had to do that we're still working on, there's never a done in curriculum. You never get to the end and go, all right, we're done. It's always a continuous improvement feedback loop cycle. So the first thing we had to do so that we can even sniff at this, if we're building teacher capacity, is we have to get really clear in our curriculum. And curricular coherence, what that means and guarantees is, it doesn't matter if your students at Cypress or your students at Walnut, they're gonna get this, not the same, it's not gonna be cookie cutter. They're not gonna get the same lesson, they're gonna get the same essence and same standards. The teachers have freedom to decide what that looks like in the classroom, but the what they're teaching and the tools should be the same. They should all be, and I'm gonna make this up, on the same unit throughout the whole grade level. So kindergarten, I just looked at some curriculum documents for kindergarten, so that's fresh in my mind, kindergarten math. Unit 9 should all be about the same thing. So when I'm doing walkthroughs as a whole district, I can go to a kindergarten class doing math and it should look very similar or same ideas. Whether I'm at any one of our campuses, it should look the same at the same level of rigor. Being able to increase that curricular coherence guarantees that I'm going to see the same rigor, whether I'm walking Cypress, Walnut, Rooster, doesn't matter. So how do we do that? It's a lot of work. The first thing we have to do, this is a GVC, a Guaranteed Viable Curriculum, what you're going after. Whatever we write in our curriculum has to match what we teach every day, has to match what's tested every day. And this is where the work all happens. There's a lot of variables in here. We have how many teachers total?
575.
575 possible variations based on this. So being really tight and clear in that alignment, prioritizing what's essential for content area per grade level is paramount. We have to know what we're going after. Our assessments have to align to what the unit's asking. It has to align in a rigorous way, but also so that it's understood by teachers across the whole district. We have to be able to provide that clarity, and this is how we do that. It's unpacking every standard. So we have something called TEKS. Have y'all heard that word before? Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. It's what the state tells us we have to teach. So every grade level, every content area has standards. Some of them are very long, very, very, very long. So making sure we can unpack that as educators and clearly know what we're supposed to go after at what level is so important. Clarifying the rigor, how the students are going to be able to approach that standard, and also proficiency skills. That's kind of a new thing for us in Dripping Springs. What we want to do is we want to show teachers what success looks like. We want to be able to show that to students as well, so that you can show their progression and their learning for every standard. So we're building all this currently. Success criteria and proficiency skills are very similar. Accessibility for our teachers, they have to be able to find the curriculum quickly, know exactly what they need, because we need them to focus on the how in the classroom. It has to be really easily laid out for them. And what I don't want you to hear me say, because I'm not saying this, is there's a lesson, like it's day 4 of the second 9 weeks. This is your lesson for math. That is not what we're about. Here's the unit. We do backwards planning, which means I'm going to look at the assessment first. I'm going to backwards plan my experiences in the classroom so I can be successful. And you as the educator, the professional, you get to figure out what that looks like for your classroom. We want simplified access, which we're working towards, with embedded resources. We have a hugely robust curriculum, huge. It's a big acronym. I don't even know the words, but it's TCMPC, Texas something, I don't know. Anyway, it's huge. For a brand new teacher that's coming to us, one unit, probably 24 pages long. You can't, and it's 5 unit. You can't decide with all that as a brand new teacher what's important, what I focus on. It has a great information, and so what we're doing in the curriculum is we're taking that and really peeling out what's critically important for a new teacher and making that available for our teachers. That's important work that is still ongoing in embedding those resources, because right now they go to this place for that, they go to here for resources. Really making it one-stop shop for our teachers is important to us. Making sure that we're calibrated for continuous improvement and really looking at our walkthroughs. You heard Ms. Miller talk about that. And feedback cycles. Not only feedback from a teacher to a student, but from a leader to a teacher. That, and from a teacher to the curriculum department, because they need feedback on how is the curriculum working for kids. That's a lot, right? It feels like you should have a team of people doing this. We have 2 doing this pre-K-12. So it's a lot with instructional coaches. We're able to get this done, so that's really good.
I had a question about that, Karen.
Yes.
How long have you been here?
6 years.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. So I've been
Wow.
here about 7.5.
So you beat me here.
So like when we first arrived, I think like you were a part of this, is that depending on what elementary you went to, things were very variable. So I think since you've arrived, that's been one of your big focuses is making sure that things are equitable and that as you go across elementary schools, everything is more aligned. Because when we first arrived, I did hear like, well, you're just kind of picking whatever curriculum you have, and there's a lot of variabilities. So now we kind of moved to curriculum-based assessments, and I was just wondering, I don't know how you would test for it, like, do you feel that the curriculum is aligned across campuses? Like, if kids are failing the curriculum-based assessments, like, how are y'all investigating that this is the correct tool to really gauge, is our curriculum aligned across campuses? Is it a teacher error? Is this a concept? It just seems like it would be really difficult to pick apart the effectiveness of your CBAs.
That's a really good, insightful question too. So it's not just picking apart the assessment. The assessments are written by teachers. I don't know if you knew that, and it's like vetted through curriculum instruction or L&I. And do you have middle school kids?
Yes, I have 2 middle schoolers.
Okay, because we recently changed the model in elementary to be unit mastery checks versus CBAs. CBA is still hanging out in middle school, where it's more multiple units in one assessment, whereas elementary went to unit. Every unit has a small little assessment rather than one cumulative. And so we do get a lot of feedback from teachers around assessment time, but it's more in the PLC realm where teachers are having these aha conversations. Well, my kids didn't do, like, we're really vulnerable with our scores, and my kids didn't do as well as yours. Well, what did you do? Well, I did it this way, and so they can have conversations about that. But really what you're asking is, how do I guarantee, how do I know how do I inform our superintendent that yes, kindergarten math looks the same across the board? It's really, we look at our leaders to say they should know. We have walkthrough parameters. They should know what's happening in their classrooms. We talk about it at our principal meetings about what they should be seeing. But really what happens in the next stage of our leadership is bringing artifacts from the learning to see that variation. You can see it when you're doing walkthroughs. You can walk through a campus and tell if they're on par or not. Our instructional coaches, who are also embedded, are keeping that alignment tight as well. So we do have some variation. So there are some teachers that have a little bit of freedom based on whatever their needs are for the classroom. If they took a couple extra days in the unit, so they're not going to be like lockstep, like little soldiers, but our view or our lens, our arm into the classroom is through our instructional coaches. And they meet with our director every week, just to give an update, like, here's where we're at. Rooster still needs a little bit extra time for this unit in 3rd grade. So we have those ongoing dialogue. And then if there's a problem that we see, we call the principal and say, hey, what are you noticing? A lot of dialogue.
And so you feel like they're being pretty effective measures?
Yes.
And at the campus level, anytime we give a CBA, we don't want to just give another assessment. So we have to do something with that data. What is that data telling us? So yesterday I sat in 7th grade math. They had just given their CBA, and the instructional coach and our STEM coordinator for the district both attended. They had data ready for the entire team. They had all of DSMS's data by teacher, all of Sycamore Springs data by teacher, and they had it by essential standard by TEAC. And they dug into every aspect of that CBA. Which data, what are our celebrations, where are our opportunities for improvement, and then what are those next steps? So when they found those opportunities, they started talking about instructional strategies and how am I going to attack that? What does that intervention look like so that we're ready for STAR? So I think for the teachers that it's really eye-opening and telling when they can compare their data with DSMS. Not that we want to beat one another, but it's almost like a barometer. Like it helps me gauge, am I in the right ballpark or not?
That's really good. And you're right, before, 6 years ago, we were a very small district, and it's very common for every campus to have their own curriculum, if you will, and I was hired to support bringing that all together. And it's taken, I mean, it's a lot of work, but I have wonderful principals that are helping lead the work on their campuses too. So it's not just one group, it's the whole system supporting this. Even something as simple as the resources. Our campus principals used to buy all the resources that they needed for the curriculum. Our finance department said, I think we can save money, we could do this differently, and our superintendent said, we absolutely will from a curriculum standpoint. own it as a district and send it out. And so that's been years ago, but beautiful progress towards unifying that.
I know our focus is on academics today, but is there also, it seems that the culture is quite different across the schools. Is there also a focus of aligning culture, or is each individual school kind of able to build their own culture and the focus is on a cohesive curriculum?
So that's a really good question. Every culture is built on the community it serves, and we do have small micro communities depending on what campus you're at. And so we really work with the principal. They know their community, they know their PTA, they know what they're going after. So they do have liberty under the umbrella of this is how DSISD does it. So you're going to fit within that, but you can make your own culture under these guidelines.
Yeah.
We're going to do leader and me, right? We're going to make sure that we have the same.
Say respectful, responsible
Yes.
is like the tagline that can go all the way through too.
For sure. But it is an important way to, that's part of the communication that binds us all together so we can stay on the same page. Our principals are really good at learning from each other as well, so I think that's really powerful when they can be their own little professional learning community and take really good ideas about a challenge or a teacher that they need support. They will learn from each other, whether it's elementary, the small group, or secondary, the small group, or them all together. So that's a great question. Thank you for asking. So I have one, the only thing I was supposed to say about this slide, but we went into a little bit more, which is fun. This is so important. The greatest single factor in student learning is the quality of instruction that the students experience every day. So it's the person in the classroom teaching that can impact that even more so than what the curriculum looks like or what the culture's like. It's the person. So in our classrooms every day, our students, you should be able to see students clearly knowing what they're supposed to be learning and why, clearly engaging. We've been focusing on this, not just compliance engagement, right? We want them clearly thinking, talking, and doing things. And then we're going to give them feedback and also our teachers so that they can grow and improve. Every day when we're walking through classrooms, we're looking for these things. So what does this look like? So clear. The learning goal is visible in student-friendly language. I can, you'll see that sometimes in younger grades. I can divide, la 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 la. It'll say the standard in student language. Students know what success looks like. We talk about the success criteria, proficiency skills, and lessons are purposeful. They're not random, just activities willy-nilly. Where does that land on Hattie? At a 0.75. So students should be able to, just with clarity and teacher clarity on what they're teaching, more than a year's growth. That's impressive. That's something we're going after as a district. We want students engaged. Students discuss, solve, write, explain, apply. They're not just sitting there doing a worksheet, right? Their teachers, the tasks are appropriately challenging, not just busy work. Teachers check for understanding. That means quick formative assessments, not even like a test. It's just raise your hand if, write on a sticky note when, blah, blah, blah. What does that do for learning? Metacognitive strategies, 0.6, above the 0.4. Classroom discussion, 0.82. Back in the day, maybe when you were in school too, how many of you were like in rows, kind of like this? And it was quiet, and that was the sign of a good classroom. It's okay, raise your hand. I was in that classroom too. We're all quietly reading by ourselves. We're filling out our little sheet. That's not what we're wanting this time around. You probably saw some of that. Students moving, talking. Sometimes you'll see them up. We do building thinking classrooms where they're up talking with a whiteboard, and they're having a little group around them and they're doing the work. So it looks a lot different than when we were in school. And here's why. Patty says that's what drives learning. And then the last one, growing. If you give feedback and through formative assessments, feedback is 0.7, formative assessments 0.45. And all the research will say, in order to make somebody understand where they need to grow or how to grow, they have to know where they're starting from, they have to know what the goal is, and the path to get there. That's all this is saying for our curriculum. So, how does learning improve? Do y'all know how do we improve learning?
Practice makes progress.
Okay, that's a good snappy little thing. Anybody else? I'm going to show you, if I click the next slide, a little video will start. You know what it's like. How many of you have been experienced with watching somebody learn how to walk? Like a baby. A baby learning how to walk. Okay, so if you apply that strategy of a baby learning how to walk to how learning improves, everything we're doing in the classroom is in that model of a baby walk. So we don't sit there and say to the baby, okay, what you're gonna do is, we don't lecture to them. They're not ready to hear that. If they fall, we don't say, I guess you're just not a walker. You're just not gonna make it, right? We don't teach them by giving them a lecture. We clear the space and encourage them. They sometimes, you'll see in this little clip, the baby holds on to something. We call that scaffolding in education. It might be extra support. They just need a little bit extra support, but they learn by getting feedback constantly. And the way our brains are wired, we get feedback physically and mentally. So just humor me and just watch this real fast, plus it's a cute baby. The progression, it's about 2 minutes, I can speed it up, but okay, he's just learning to stand here, makes a lot of falls. So failure is a part of learning, is what this is telling me. Look at, there's the scaffold. Oh, and he's so excited. Okay. Trying it, I'm trying it. Watch his face right here. It's beautiful. Look at that. I did it. Trying it again, trying it again. And we wouldn't come in and go, oh, see, you're still not taking any steps. You shouldn't walk. So we're patient, we're reinforced. We probably give a lot of praise at this point, like, come on, you can do it, come on, come on. Same thing a teacher's doing in the classroom, right? Look at the baby step he just took. So he's growing, he's learning, he's progressing. Uh-oh, barrier. Don't give up, little guy. You got this. Grit, grit, let's go. Pull that foot. You got it. Oh. That's great. We're going to give him a little bit more support, and it's almost done, don't worry. Lots of praise, feedback. Here he goes. Look at him. Oh. Couple setbacks. I love when he does that. Okay, so you get the point, right? We learn through failure, and somewhere, somehow, some way, even when we were growing up, somebody said in learning, if you don't know it and you make a mistake, you're dumb, or you don't have what it takes, and that's not it at all. We need to fail so we can learn, right? So the learning cycle is always going to be this. We have clear aligned things happening, students are engaged, they're practicing, they're thinking, applying, they're possibly getting some things wrong. That's okay, there's adjustments, they're getting feedback, they're making the adjustments. They can do that when they feel safe, when they feel successful and supported, just like that little boy, that little baby. The baby didn't give up, the baby didn't feel bad. He wasn't like trying to wait for somebody to praise or say, oh, you just can't do it. He didn't care. Somewhere we started caring about what other people felt. I want it to be safe to make mistakes and say, it's okay to make a mistake. Guess what, you're learning. You guys know that as adults, and sometimes getting that message through to kids is hard because we're playing a grade game that's a little scary for kids, right? And so as a parent of 3 children, it was never the grade game. It's what did you learn from that experience? Yes, the grade is not great. Did you get feedback? Do you know what to do next time to get better? That's what learning is all about. Something that we're doing in Dripping Springs, that's part of our strategic plan, is investing in our educators by building their capacity. So this year, we brought back where every teacher in their what we call ads, which is their evaluation tool, they have to watch 3 other teachers, and they have to be observed by 3 teachers to see what instructional moves they're making in other classrooms that maybe they want to incorporate in their classroom. So every teacher now, based on the new art and science of teaching, is doing the observations, but also picking goals based on learning and how they're going to improve learner outcomes. The second I got to be a better teacher is the day I left the classroom and got to see other teachers teach. Honestly, that's what moved my professional learning so much, and I get to do it even now when I'm walking into some of our teacher classrooms. I'm seeing things that I was like, oh, that's such a great idea, I wish I would have thought of that, but then spreading that to others. So we're really going heavy on making sure our own professional growth is on student outcomes. We're also really targeting our early career teachers. It's very, very important. We get so few of them, right? It's not a field that people are like flocking to. But when we get them, we do a targeted coaching cycle support for them. Every instructional coach meets with a brand new teacher multiple times a year, but does instructional coaching cycles twice a year. So we also have a newer mentoring program that we actually just applied for a grant for to get extra support so we can continuously build our mentoring program. And then we did a 0-year new teacher academy. These are just artifacts from those events, really pouring into building capacity so that we can take our brand new to teaching teachers and elevate them to our learners, our more advanced teachers. You heard Ms. Miller talk about how that is working on her campus, taking an experienced teacher and helping them co-teach with an inexperienced. It's powerful. That's an embedded learning, kind of like an apprenticeship, if you will. And then the support system for all learners. We want to encourage failure to a point, right? But if you don't get it the first time, what systems do we have to support all learners? We have something called MTSS. It's multiple tiered system of support, and that's for academics or behavior. And so tier 1 is what everybody has. That's what we all start out at tier 1. If you need a little bit more support in an area, a teacher is going to identify that. You're probably going to go with your teacher to an MTSS meeting. They're going to identify some goals and some progress monitoring. And in tier 2, they're going to monitor what you can do in the classroom to support that learner. If still there's more supports needed and the gaps are getting a little bit bigger, we go to tier 3. And then potentially, if needed, we do evaluations to see maybe you need a specialized program. So why does this work? Because it's not just about a fad, an initiative, it's one thing. It's the collective system of everything that we're pushing together. So it's the coherence in curriculum, the building capacity in our teachers, and then having that aligned commitment to what we're all going after in the graduate profile. That's why this works. And that's why it's not just a year-long thing. It's a continuous, it's going to take us beyond 2030 to continue this work. Because as I said, curriculum isn't done, ever, unfortunately, never done. But when we create these coherent systems, we have a tight, aligned system so that you as a parent or a community member know whatever campus kids end up in, they're going to get a quality education, no matter what. We're going to be teaching the similar topics, same things. We're going to have similar experiences, and it doesn't matter which zone you're zoned for.